Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come.
The music you just heard is your invitation to settle in and prepare for our worship service. Please put your phones and devices in airplane mode for the duration of the service. This keeps them quiet and helps us provide a higher quality stream for our siblings attending virtually. Please know that whoever you are, wherever you are from, whomever you love, wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to San Gabriel Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Whether you are here in the sanctuary or watching from home, whether you are with us for the first time or the 1,000th, we are glad you are here. My name is Kelly McGinty. My pronouns are she, her, and I am honored to serve as your lay leader this morning. I have also served San Gabriel as the board secretary, the board vice president, the board president, and also the head of the hospitality team. And currently, I am organizing our monthly full moon drum circle, and all of the new dates for the beginning of 2025 are on the bulletin board in the hallway, if you are interested. San Gabriel is a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association. We are a movement working for a just, peaceful, and sustainable world. Sustaining each other here in community is just one part of that work.
Good morning. I'm known as TJ Seng, and I'm honored to serve as your worship leader today. Today's sermon that you'll be hearing shortly was actually from the result of a short conversation I had with Eric, our pulpiteer. It more or less went like this. Love the sermons, the vibe, the energy, the kind of overlay on mental health issues and related things. But I think there were some other things that need to be mentioned. And so would you be willing if I ghost wrote for you? And so today's sermon was one of the ones I ghost wrote, and instead of wanting to deliver it, he said, I want you to deliver it. And so that's how I'm up here today. Because otherwise I'd be in the back making coffee like I usually do and singing with the choir up here.
Please join me in reciting the words to light our chalice. We light this flame to remind us love is the center. As we grow and connect, mature and deepen, love remains the center. When the light of truth burns all else away, love remains. I have one of these at home. It always kind of takes a minute for it to work its magic. Oh, let me introduce the first hymn. Let us greet this day in song. Our opening hymn is How Sweet the Darkness, number 1055 in the Teal Hymnal. We will be singing verses 1, 2, and 3, and the lyrics will be projected. Just to let you know, the musicians will be playing it through one time before we start with verse 1. So please rise in body or spirit as you are able. Sometimes we are carrying something on our heart that can prevent us from being fully present. Here in this community, our sharing of these things with each other is medicine. It is healing. Like all good medicine, it must be concentrated and potent. Please aim at a couple of strong sentences. So if you are carrying a joy or sorrow on your heart right now, I invite you to share in this time while one of us is practicing praise or grief or both. The rest of us are practicing the gift of presence and deep listening. So at this time, if you have any joys that you would like to share with everyone, or if you have any sorrows or concerns that you want us to hold with you, you're invited to share. Thank you for sharing. And for any joys or sorrows that remain unspoken, the love of this community is with you. Thank you so much, Laura and Joe. That was nice. I now invite you into a place of deeper stillness and reflection. And for our reading today, I have selected a poem from the Book of Earth. It is New and Selected Poems by John Daniel. And I actually got this book during COVID off of the UUA website. And it's a very nice collection. The name of this poem is A Prayer Among Friends. Among other wonders of our lives, we are alive. With one another, we walk here, in the light of this unlikely world that is not ours for long. May we spend generously the time we are given. May we enact our responsibilities as thoroughly as we enjoy our pleasures. May we see with clarity. May we seek a vision that serves all beings. May we honor the mystery surpassing our sight. May we hold in our hands the gift of good work and bear it forth whole, as we were born forth by a power we praise to this one earth, this our homeland of all we love.
Hey, everybody. That better? Everybody. So the title of this sermon is The Shadow and the Hidden Door, because the original working title was a lot longer, and it was thought best to shorten that just a tad bit. I'd like to open up with a opening quote attributed to Aaron Mackay. Tough times create strong men. Strong men create easy times. Easy times create weak men, and weak men create tough times. This is not a motivational speech. It's not an academic lecture, and this isn't even street preaching. Instead, what this is an introspective examination into the heart of man. Many believe that events in the outside world, with all of its wars, collapsing economies, revolutions, and so forth, are what is important to humanity. But the real conflict has always been within oneself, for the interior world of the soul has been the true battleground of humanity. Had entire civilizations taken mental health seriously, our collective experiences with each other would have had a distinctly different face today. A loved one of mine was abused as a child, physically wounded by the use of a belt by their father in the middle of the night. Yet this alone was not the primary cause of their personality being repressed, but rather the recurring admonishment by both parents in different ways and for different motives that ultimately caused the repression of what their parents deemed to be undesirable personality traits. For example, their mother would often decry alleged attempts at being dramatic or asking, "Why are you so dramatic all the time?" on the flimsy justification that this was somehow attention-seeking behavior or otherwise some alleged violation of family privacy. Their father's suppression was more along the lines of, "I'll give you something to cry about," and otherwise promoting toxic masculinity, all the while hypocritically failing to practice what he himself preached. Motives between both parents were interestingly opposed. Their mother genuinely cared about their well-being, but simply executed this poorly. By contrast, their father was a ridiculously selfish man more concerned about his own image within the minds of strangers than whether he had a good relationship with his own child. In my experience, truly confident men do not place inordinate value on the subjective opinions of random strangers, whereas those who suffer from machismo simply perpetuate the cycle of intergenerational abuse, as was the case here, sadly. So, why begin today's sermon with just one individual's history of child abuse? Surely today's modern parents of various faiths and even secular attitudes now appreciate the value of not maliciously striking their children or overworking them, as was the case during the Industrial Revolution, but who do helicopter parent their children to such an extent that said children's developmental growth is greatly hindered by the unrealistic and harmful expectations imposed upon them by their families, schools, and mainstream American culture. Swiss psychotherapist Carl Jung, who founded what became known as the Analytical School of Psychology, explained that the shadow of one's personality, or all those repressed or otherwise socially undesirable traits of an individual. Although the shadow can be benevolent at times and not just malevolent, its power cannot be underestimated in the slightest. So during childhood, we're often taught by parents, teachers, other caregivers about social etiquette, proper behavior, and most importantly, their cultural expectations. Often and frequently, we are instructed to suppress our desires, control our facial expressions, and sublimate our emotions to the passions of those in authority. To paraphrase the aforementioned loved one of mine, today's expectations become tomorrow's resentments. Today's expectations become tomorrow's resentments. Just so you remember. Unfortunately, such routine conformity necessarily subjugates certain personality traits without regard for ethical or moral considerations. For instance, anger, empathy, sadness, compassion, cooperation, friendship, assertiveness, determination, willfulness, agency, and most importantly, authenticity are all edited out of children by adults who, on one hand, claim to value goodness, but on the other, only seek to mold the innocent into images most convenient and pleasing to their own twisted, self-centered, ego-driven agendas of societal control. Everybody get that? These personality traits that adults edit out of children form the basis for the shadow itself. Sowing the seeds of interpersonal discord is laid by, ironically, the very adults who believe they are preventing the emergence of wickedness. The shadow, yes, I agree. The shadow, as the total aggregate of all the socially designated undesirable personality traits, is left to rot and fester, at least until such time it either bursts suddenly or just bubbles underneath the surface, that is the facade of the persona. This is how and why children learn how to mask themselves. For the very culture that claims to value its offspring. What about the children? What about the children, right? We've all heard that. What about those children? Well, let's talk about those children. For the very culture that claims to value its collective offspring actually values conformity to their standards above all else. The very extreme consequences of this coercive masking leads not only to criminality such as active shooters or human traffickers, but also to repeating the cycles of abuse and toxicity intergenerationally. So masking, while initially an attempt by a child as a form of self-protection from adults, hurts the child long-term by habitually reinforcing the practice of projecting an acceptable image in public. Home is not even really a true home for rest in this context, as children who are seen but not heard. Heard that one, right? As children who are seen but not heard are expected to keep up the facade within their parents' residences, with their only respite from such continuous performances being the solitude of either the bathroom or the unconscious realm of dreams. So given these circumstances, is it any wonder why children often get restless or otherwise disengaged from the activities that the adults who control their lives demand they participate in? So actual growth and development of children necessarily requires that they develop their own identities based off of their own experiences, as well as the consequences of their own actions. Choices are not a choice of unbalanced incentives tilt any form of decision-making towards one course of action over the other. So therefore, being able to weigh options and then decide on one option over another is the basic exercise of free will that adults routinely and liberally make use of on a daily basis. For example, the ability to say no is a skill that has fallen out of fashion and is used less than perhaps it should be. Saying no seriously and unequivocally, as opposed to doing so casually and flippantly. Oh, gee golly, Wilkers, I don't know about that. We should, what about these people? What do they think? No, I don't know. No, that's not the same as no. So saying no seriously and unequivocally, as opposed to doing so casually and flippantly, is seldom performed in our modern era. For going along to get along, regardless of what harm results in doing so, is the social norm. So just as with saying no, using physical force competently and in a restrained manner is an expression of the shadow. Various martial arts traditions have in their philosophy of training that we each have a monster inside of us, and that we should be capable in being able to act monstrously, but instead choose to act peacefully, simply because having our own monsters under voluntary control is itself an expression of virtue. This practice of integrating the shadow is an indispensable step towards pursuing enlightenment. Courage is not the practice of boisterously screaming about one's alleged fearlessness, but rather an acknowledgement of the choice to push through the fear and embrace the struggle to become brave, despite convenient excuses to the contrary. Bravery is a trait to be cultivated, not one to be denigrated as a misunderstood attitude, somehow contrary to the winds of political expediency, which are ever shifting. Now, in the spirit of parliamentary democracy, I would like to yield back some of my time to all of you to contribute to today's sermon, in much the same way we do with joys, sorrows, reflections, announcements, and gratitudes, by answering the following question in your own words, preferably in 2 strong sentences. When was the last time you chose to do something difficult that caused you social discomfort? One more time. When was the last time you chose to do something difficult that caused you social discomfort?
There's no way I'm going to keep this to 3 sentences. It was actually at a social justice meeting that we had, the last one. So February is coming up, and that's usually Black History Month. and me and Spoon, who's not here today, said unequivocally that we would not be participating. We're not going to speak because we're always asked to speak during this 1 month. We are going to show a movie, but we're not going to talk. Neither one of us are going to come up onto the pulpit and talk about it. So that was an unequivocal no, and it was kind of hard to do because these people, everybody here are good people, well-meaning people, but it was just it became kind of a point of pain for me. I can speak for myself to just be asked to do that every year. So yeah, that was the last time. Might be the only bad guy.
That's okay. I just want to check. But did it cause you social? What did you say?
Discomfort.
When was the last time you chose to do something difficult that caused you social discomfort?
Did it?
It was about, because I don't want to offend anybody, and I don't want people to think that I don't like them, right, that I'm not getting along, that I don't agree with the purpose of what was being asked, right? I just didn't want to participate in it because it caused me pain.
Hi, I'm Pam Hibbard. Probably not everybody can relate to this, but my example is the last time I was lay leader and every time I speak into this microphone.
So I have one. Oftentimes when I think of social discomfort, I think that I have to be out in the world amongst, a group of people to experience social discomfort. But my example is in my own house, actually. So this last Christmas, my mom, most people who go here know that my mother lives with us. So we live with each other. We were a 4-generation household, and now we're a 3-generation household. But she wanted me to go to my cousin's house for Christmas, and I'm pagan, and she knows I'm pagan. I've been pagan forever, and they're all Christian, and I never really have that much fun. They're nice people, they're lovely people. I don't have anything against them, but I said, no. And she was mad, and I was just kind of like, it's fine. I'd rather you be mad than I have to go do this. But then she said, I don't have very many Christmases left, And I was just like, I heard her, and I didn't even respond, because in my brain I was like, I love you, Mom, but I'm already guilt-proof. I have been guilt-proof for years, but that was adorable. And you have a lot more Christmases left. I said all these things in my head. But, it was socially uncomfortable for me. I don't want to hurt my mother's feelings. I love my mother and care about my mother. But I didn't want to, that's not how I wanted to spend my day. So. Good on you. No. Mimi.
Well, a large number of my family are very evangelical Christian types. And my one daughter I live with one daughter, but not this daughter. They are very active in their religion, and they're good people, and they do a lot of good. Oh, that more families could be good families like they are. But one of the things they're doing now is they have a program that my son-in-law is very involved with young men who they're trying to save from being not just regular, male men. And they have this home that they've set up, and it's going well, and they are always getting, reports about how wonderful everything is going. And then besides that, with all the things that they do, they are always looking for financial support, which I am willing to give because I think a lot of the things they do are excellent. So anyway, I was mailed a flyer about this home that they have for these young men. And I thought, this is one I can't support. And I thought, and I need to let that be known. And I was uncomfortable. I kept trying to think, do I need to just come out and say, look, we need to have this talk, or, whatever. And fortunately, somehow it came up in the conversation, and I said to my daughter, I'm sorry, Susan, I cannot support this program. And that was really hard for me. But she received it well. She said, well, we know they did quit trying to save me several years ago. I was delighted. But she said, we know that you don't think about things the same way that we do, so that's okay. And I was so relieved because that was really hard for me to get up the nerve to put it out there, although she knew it all the time anyway.
Hi, my name's Caitlin. This is my first time here. I'm nervous, but maybe 3 years ago, I was in my active addiction and alcoholism, and I was in a really bad place. So I ended up willingly going to this this place that was, supposed to help. It wasn't rehab, but it was a faith-based group with all women. And at first, I was really kind of excited to be there. I wanted to get well and get live a better life. But when we would go to church, to their their faith, I was told that I was not going to go to a nice place after I passed away because of my certain beliefs and things like that. So I decided to leave after 4 months. I tried for 4 months to fit in and be accepted. Finally, I wanted to go home. They wouldn't let me call my family, and they dropped me off at a bus stop in Houston because that was my punishment for leaving. So I stood up for myself. Even though I was knew I was going to get dropped off at a bus station, I pushed through, and I went to the bus station and then called my parents and got picked up. And that was a really difficult situation for me to go through, and it kind of messed with my faith a little bit too. But I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to be sober today. So that's it.
Thank you. We're so glad you're here. And last September, I had 6 years. We do recover.
Mine is fairly simple. I have two really awkward moments in my life. One is anytime I stand up and say, hi, my name's Mel, and I am an alcoholic. I've been in recovery on and off for the better part of 7 years now. And yes, it does get easier with time. I'm going to shamelessly say we do have a recovery meeting here on Thursday nights. It's a secular recovery meeting, so feel free to drop by. The other thing that makes me socially uncomfortable a lot, especially in today's climate, is when I can walk into a room and say, yes, I am who I am, and I don't care that you don't care that you care that I'm gay, because it doesn't bother you. What I do at home is none of your damn business anyway. But I have to be the one that says, get out of my bedroom, because it's none of your business.
I'm Jan, and a few years back we were invited to Episcopalian service of a baptism for a darling little child of a work associate of my husband's. Well, I've been UU for something like almost 50 years. I was baptized in a American Baptist church in Michigan. I fully believed in baptism back then. I believed in communion, etc. Well, after this, I thought I'd be able to, escape without really expressing my views. But then they held a large service, Episcopalian service, where they did communion. And for some reason, I am really conflicted about communion. I think I'm germophobic, for one thing, but I was the only one in this large group that did not go up front and share the chalice, etc. My husband was raised Episcopalian. He felt comfortable, I think, doing that. And it was his work associate, Well, I felt an usher came right up to me and personally, right in front of everybody, is encouraging me to go forward. And I said, I'm just not comfortable doing it. So that was a social thing, because then there was a big reception afterwards, and people were just staring at me like, why didn't you do the communion? But it just was my expression of my feelings at the time and ongoing, and I still don't know why. I just don't relate very well to the communion, so.
Anyone else? All right, well, thank you for sharing. And these examples, and again, seriously, thank you for sharing, because this plays in exactly what today's sermon's about. All these examples you just heard. There are those times that anyone who goes against the grain, cases in point, these are positive examples of the shadow asserting itself in a constructive manner, which also further integrates the shadow into the broader individual personality. It could also be said that said integration of the shadow is a form of spiritual development. So kudos to you guys for at least making the effort. So truth be told, Carl Jung and others like him were not first past the post in addressing mental health issues as previously described. So as a recurring human problem, it would appear that other people in different cultures, in different places, in different times of history also attempted to remedy the struggles in maintaining one's mental health. The proud and honorable Japanese people are but just one historical example of attempting to do so, especially given the historically unstable and volatile land they happen to inhabit. According to the Koru of Tokukura Ryu, known in English as the Japanese warrior martial arts tradition, the School of the Hidden Door, spiritual refinement is considered to be a learnable skill set known in Japanese as Seishin Teki Kyōyō. Some English descriptions of these techniques further explain that said spiritual refinement requires self-knowledge, an intimate understanding of not only the natural world, but also of human nature, and a highly refined practice of situational awareness. That is a very attuned sense of one's environment whose baby steps could involve people watching. A more esoteric practice and understanding of spiritual refinement also involves a deeply felt love for humanity itself. Harmony and balance are indispensable for peaceful coexistence, just as the development of empathy and facing one's fears are practices used on the journey towards enlightenment. Finally, a proper acceptance of fate and a deep commitment towards love of your fellow man, even at the expense of one's own life, is what the techniques of spiritual refinement aspire to develop towards. It could be said that the medieval Japanese were already practicing shadow work, chiefly as a form of preparation for death and combat. Mikyo, as an esoteric form of Japanese Buddhism, used the ritual of the Kujikuri to change brainwave states by calming the mind, yet maintaining alertness, as one study by my University School of Medicine in Seoul, Japan, found back in 2012. Furthermore, what would now be described as mindfulness meditation, hatha yoga, and rhythmic chanting, and at this rate, drum circle as well, were allegedly practiced by medieval Japanese warriors, of whom were not only comprised of the samurai aristocratic class, but also of, shall we say, other warrior types who practice these as well as more esoteric techniques. Another approach of medieval Japanese shadow work were their asymmetrical stratagems in applied psychological warfare. Notori Masazumi wrote in the Shono Ninki, published approximately in the 17th century, quote, "One of the most important things for you to do is always try to know everything you can of every place or province that it is possible to know. When you are in that said province, you will be able to read the feeling of the local people and do what is necessary according to the situation. If your mind is in total accordance with the way of things and is working with perfect reason and logic, then you can pass through the Mumon non Ikan, the gateless gate. This is the interface with humans and is the gateway to their true thoughts through observing them. You will be able to pass through this mental stage because you will have a clear mind and reasonable thinking due to your training," close quote. So outside the context of warfare, of wartime, so that is within peacetime, such a stratagem of the gateless gate could be applied to commercial endeavors and romantic relationships alike. Similarly, Fujibayashi Yasutake wrote in the Bansen Shukai, quote, "Brute courage may make you strong or hard out of temporary rage, but it is difficult to keep your mind strong and hard deep at the bottom of your heart as the rage calms down. Yet, even if that strength through force gets at the bottom of your mind and makes you work brave and hard, it is just based on hot blood. And so in most cases, it is no more than your blind rage acting, and what you are trying to do is bring others to terms by force alone. As a result, you will not have the foresight nor be ready to defend yourselves fully, and you will only destroy yourself and not ruin the enemy to any significant level. Think of ancient people. Has anyone who had brute courage ever been able to succeed in getting out of trouble and destroying an entire army?" Close quote. So as you can no doubt tell, the medieval Japanese were attempting to integrate their shadows as comprehensively as they could, for in their stage in history, their mental health would largely determine issues of life and death. For people who likely suffered from war-induced trauma, such as what we would understand to be post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, these attempts to maintain or even reconstruct a stable frame of mind was critical to their physical survival, both individually and as a people. Okay, so where does this leave us, Americans in the early 21st century? Although our federal government's unconstitutional foreign entanglements in Syria, Ukraine, and Gaza place undue burdens upon both the taxpaying public and the United States Armed Forces, often both overlap rather than diverge, we deal with a different set of daily struggles, namely a hyperinflationary depressive economy and dwindling fiat currency, bureaucratic administrative agencies who spit upon our civil liberties without regard for our innate human freedoms, and an emerging technocratic business class who invent and develop communications technologies that we as a people don't yet know how to properly utilize, much to the detriment of our interpersonal relationships. More than ever, it is incumbent upon us to look to the techniques of past humans in order to better grow the humans of the future who are mentally awake. Life is not an easy process. It is full of trials and tribulations, joys and sorrows, reflections and gratitudes. Acting with deliberate intention to refine one's character by integrating the shadow is a good starting point for practicing conscious spirituality.
We take an offering each week to sustain this spiritual home and to support the work of our fellowship. If you are visiting, we invite you to fill out a visitor card, which you can put in the plate or return it to the visitor table in the back. For offertory music, we have "It Came Upon a Midnight Clear" by R.S. Willis, performed by Laura and Tolivia.
Sometimes we are called to add our voice to the chorus. Sometimes we are called to speak aloud the message resonating in our hearts. If you are called to reflect, express gratitude, or share an announcement, please raise your hand for the microphone. 2 strong sentences. 3 strong sentences.
My name is Elaine. This is my first time here, and I am so glad to be here. I feel like I've come home.
As a lot of you guys know, my name is Mel. I'm the volunteer choir director / co-music coordinator and all around whatever around here anymore. But if anyone is interested in joining the choir or even doing any kind of music things, please let me know. I'm starting to put a 2025 calendar together. I'd like to see what we can do about getting even more music involved in our worship and our services here. And additionally, my second announcement is to, just as I was saying earlier, Thursday nights at 7:30, we do host a recovery meeting. All folks are welcome. It is geared to be a secular LGBT organization. However, we do welcome anyone that is in need of a little bit of support, whether it's an addiction problem, a grief problem. It's just, generally speaking, a support organization that we're working with here. So thank you.
It's an open meeting, so anybody can come. I will do another shameless plug for Drum Circle. And then as I'm bringing it back here, I had one reflection as I was listening to the sermon when TJ would say, every time TJ would say children, I kept thinking, but we're the children, right? Like we are the children. No matter how old we are, at one point we were the children. And we still have inner children that are kind of trying to figure all of these things out. And so that was my reflection.
Thanks, Pam again. We have an upcoming orientation session for anybody interested in learning more about our UU faith and this congregation. And it's a good place to learn about the history of this church and these people here. That's coming up on January 12th. It'll be a Sunday after service. We'll meet in the fellowship house just next to this building. There are a sign-up sheet here on the back table if you think you might be interested. And that will be followed up in February 9th, on February 9th, with a joining ceremony for those who wish to join, and we go through a little ceremony to welcome everybody in and sign the book and get you on the books officially. Also, back here at the membership table and these wonderful folks that greet you as you come in, we're all part of the membership team for San Gabriel UU, and we would love to welcome you to our team. We can always use the help.
And we also have coffee in this room after services.
Any other reflections, announcements, gratitudes? Anyone? All right. Thank you for sharing and for connecting us to each other and the world beyond. Our second hymn is When I Am Frightened, number 1012, 1012. In the Teal hymnal, we are singing verses 1, 2, and 3. The lyrics will be projected. Please rise in body or spirit as you are able.
As we prepare to return to the world, we remind ourselves through our affirmation to carry our work from this place to every corner of our lives. Please join me in the call and response. Love is the doctrine of this church.
We are here to love.
The quest of truth is its sacrament.
We are here to learn.
Service is its prayer.
We are here to care for others.
To dwell together in peace.
We are here to live in peace.
To seek knowledge in freedom.
We are here to honor our differences.
To serve humanity in fellowship.
We are all connected in spirit.
To the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine.
We are here to grow.
Thus do we covenant with one another.
This we promise to do together.
Please join me in reciting the words to extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame to remind us love is the center. As we explore and rest, engage and heal, love remains the center. When all we can see is cold ashes, love remains.
Prior to giving out the benediction, I want to say one thing. Today's sermon was not intended as a way of admonishing anybody, penalizing anybody, making anybody feel guilty. Far from it. I'm more concerned about the future. And so to that end, if any of you are interested in sermons of this kind of flavor, there were obviously some items in there ranging from the Kujikuri to other spiritual practices that could be potentially sermons in the future, if our pulpiteer signs off on it, of course. So I will make myself available in the back if you want to talk to me privately with what resonated with you and more specifically what you would like to hear about in more detail. Even if it's something about do a sermon on meditation. I can do one on meditation. A lot of people can. A lot of people have. And so to that end, may you find questions more profound than answers, play more proficient than mastery, vulnerability more powerful than invincibility, supplication more productive than control, and quite possibly the most importantly, and a peace that passeth all understanding.